Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be finally reviewing the new Haus Labs Foundation, powder, and brush. So I've had these for a week and a half now, and I've been using them nonstop, and I can't wait to give you my thoughts on them. I'm going to apply them so you can see what it looks like on my face, how it looks like as it applies, use the powder, use the brush, all of that, and then I will give you my more thoughts at the end. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Colin. I am a non-binary Latinx scientist and lover of makeup with a soft spot for indie makeup and colorful makeup. And I have new content every week, so I'd love to have you subscribe. Okay, so I've worn this in the last couple of videos. I just haven't had a chance to really film lately. We had Steven here as company for a few days, and we did that video together, which I will link above. And then my husband's been really busy with work, and so if he's on a phone call, I can't film because it's just one big room basically. And my health hasn't been the best lately. I have chronic migraines and some chronic pain issues that they're still trying to suss out even after almost 20 years, or probably 20 years. Some days lately it's just been really bad, and I haven't really been able to get out of bed that much or been very active. So standing or sitting and filming for a while is just a little too much. But I do have a lot of thoughts, and I'm excited to finally film with this. So this is the Haus Labs Triclone Skin Tech Foundation. I have the shade 260. Yeah, 260 light medium cool with olive undertones. So I will say that their foundations, if you're interested in doing them, do run a little dark. So like I am a medium in a lot of brands, but I'm a light medium in this and in Pat McGrath, but it's like the last of the light medium shades. And then I've seen other people get like a light medium and be like, oh, this is too dark for me. And it's because they're actually a light medium, so they need a light shade, and this is more closer to the medium range. They're in most Sephora's now, so I would recommend going and getting shade matched in person. Me, I did it online myself and then ordered to pick up. So this retails for $45. You get 1 fluid ounce, the normal amount. For a foundation, it says a clean, cutting edge, long wear foundation that delivers superior makeup performance without compromising your skin. Infused 20 plus skincare ingredients, buildable medium coverage, luminous second skin finish, ultra fluid, weightless formula. And I will say that does seem like a very accurate description. And then I got the powder. This is the Bio Blurring Loose Setting Powder. I got it in the shade Golden, which golden shades tend to work better for me because I am olive. They just tend to work a little bit better than neutral or translucent shades that are supposed to be neutral unless they're actually clear. Some of those end up being too light and making me look washed out. And then neutral shades tend to have a little more peach and stuff in them, and they look a little off against my skin. The powder retails for $39, I think. You get 7 grams of product, and it does say that it is also formulated with fermented arnica and plant squalene, and it's talc free. So arnica, if you don't know, is also in the foundation. It's one of the skincare ingredients. It's a natural anti-inflammatory bean. What was that? So arnica, if you don't already know, is also in the foundation. It's a natural plant-derived anti-inflammatory thing. If you go to Whole Foods and you can buy in a lot of health food stores, like Whole Foods or actual health food stores, it as like an alternative pain reliever because it is anti-inflammatory. So they have a fermented version that's like proprietary to the brand and is supposed to be more powerful, help with redness and inflammation in the skin. And I do have some thoughts on that that I'll get to at the end. And then I got the brush, which was also like $30 something. This is just the foundation brush. It says Luxe Custom Brush designed to optimize your foundation performance with ultra soft vegan fibers to apply your makeup. So before I go into the products, I do want to talk about finding your shade match. So a lot of people confused in the comments of things saying that they don't understand the undertones and stuff. And I think it's because Haus Labs has videos on their Instagram and on their website about this. So I would recommend going checking those out. but they took the makeup artist way of doing this, and because Sarah Tano, Gaga's makeup artist, is the creative director, and they used the actual color wheel. So kind of like when you look at MAC shades, they like, in MAC, I'm like NC, like neutral, cool, something. I don't remember the number. But that's because if you look at an actual color wheel, you have warm tones, cool tones. The cool tones tend to be things like blues, greens, that kind of side of things, some of the purples, and then warm tones are the more red-based shades. They use the actual color wheel, but if you look at, I'll put a picture of a color wheel here. If you look at an actual color wheel, humans don't exist in the bottom side with like the blues. We exist in that red, pink, orange, yellow range because of skin tone. So Haus Labs has pink and peach as the warm shades, and yellow, golden, olive as the cool tones. And that's because they're sticking with an actual color wheel and color theory, and pink and peach are shades of red, are red-based shades, so they are the truest of warm tones. And golden, olive, all of those shades in a human skin tone are yellow, but they're not true like warm yellow. They're more on that green yellow side. Olive is green yellow. So that's actually more on the cool side. So that's where they're basing that from. But thankfully, even though it says it's 260 light, medium, cool, each shade also has like yellow, golden, you know, olive undertones, or like golden peach or something. And from what I've seen, this is the most accurate to actual human skin that I've seen in a foundation. Pat McGrath, also really accurate. I think Lisa Eldridge does a really good job with hers. Pat McGrath is a little too, I wear her an olive shade in hers, and it's not olive enough. It's a little too neutral for me, but it works really well for I wear the same shade as Ruby Minhas, and she's less olive and a little more neutral, so it just works better for her. This works better for me. But I'm also, if you didn't already know, I am a scientist and I'm a nerd, so I like to break down things and analyze. So each shade has a description of the undertones in it, and it should be pretty easy. I've actually helped a few people shade match where I just looked at them and I was like, I think you're this shade. And they were like, actually, that does look accurate. And then a couple of them have gone and been shade matched and they're like, yeah, that was my shade. It's some brands, I have a really hard time trying to figure out what shade I am. A lot of the olive shades aren't olive enough. A lot of I can go with golden if they don't have an olive, but a lot of the times it's a little too yellow and warm and it looks weird against my skin. And Steven was here when I got this, and I put it on the back of my hand. He was like, that looks kind of gray. And then I put it on my skin. He was like, oh, that actually is you. And I was like, yeah, it's the green, it's the olive. So I think this is a very true to skin tone foundation range, which I'm very happy about, especially when you look at the dark shade range. I have friends that wear some of those really dark foundation shades, and they often look a little off because they have too much red in them or something. And most people, when I look at my friends that have darker skin tones, most of them don't have, or even just people online, they don't really have red in their skin the same way a foundation has red in its base. They're generally more neutral, a little more golden, something like that. And I think they did a really good job, and I've seen some content creators who do have dark skin swatch them and talk about them, and it looks like real skin in a bottle. And I think Haus Labs did an amazing job with the shade range, because it's 51 shades, but it's 51 real shades. A lot of brands will, and I've seen people like Kiki from Salt New York rant about this, where like a lot of brands will have 30 shades, but only like half of them are like usable, and there's a lot where they just like made it a little more golden or made it a little more warm or something, and they don't really work on anybody because no one's that color. Kiki has a whole video talking about this, and I've seen other people talk about it. It's something I've experienced too, especially with cheaper foundations. Like even when I tried to use like ColourPop, like none of them were right because they were all just weirdly warm against my skin. Even the neutral and like the golden were like too yellow. Like they just didn't fit with me, or like people can get them to work, but like they're not actually basing them on human skin, I feel. This definitely was. So now that I've talked about the shade range and color theory, I'm actually gonna use the products and talk about them. So when you open the box, this is the foundation. It looks very luxe. It's heavy, like a frosted glass. I think it's really pretty. And then this is the powder. They have the same H symbol and the same little like angle right here. This is pretty lightweight, but it does feel sturdy. And then this is the foundation brush. It's a nice, dense, kind of angled brush. I don't have another foundation brush like this. I only have one other actual foundation brush. So I was really intrigued to try this and see how it worked with theirs. And I really like this. It is very dense. It works very well. It's kind of like a big version of the concealer brush that I use. So that makes sense that I would like it. I have an itch. And I've used this foundation with my fingers, with a sponge, with my other foundation brush, the Sigma. And oftentimes what I do is I use this ColourPop blush brush to use to apply foundation, and I've used this too. It's small, it's fluffy, and I can get a really light layer, especially in the middle of my face, which is where I really need it. It's like here and jawline, and you can get a really light, seamless kind of skin tint effect with a brush like this. So I like it with all of these and with a sponge, just not a sponge person. So when you open the lid, you just got a little pump. Mine's already kind of messy because I've worn it like a lot. They say to shake it and then apply. I generally use maybe like a pump and a half for my whole face and to blend down to my neck. It covers everything really nicely. I don't think you need too much. I do think you can build it up pretty well. I don't know if I would try to build it to full coverage, but I feel like I get an average light to medium coverage depending on how I apply it. And that's what I like in a foundation. I want it to look like skin. I don't want it to look like a mask. I don't want it to cover all of my little freckles that I have. I want it to just look like my skin perfected, which I think this really does really well. It is very much a like luminous skin, second skin look. But it does mattify pretty well when you use the powder. So the only makeup I have on right now is a little bit of lip balm and some brow gel in my brows. And then I put some primer on, which is now set in. So I'm going to shake this up, and I'm just gonna dispense like a pump and a half on the back of my hand. That's what I normally do. And you can see it's very liquidy. And I think you can probably see why Steven said it looked a little gray, but that's just that green, that olive. And then I'm gonna pick it up with their brush, and I'm gonna put it right here. So you can see very good coverage. If you put it on thick. And then I'm just going to buff that out. And then I still have about a half a pump on the back of my hand to add more where I need it. Put a little bit more down here. And it blends in so well. I wore this when Jamila was in town and we all went out for dinner, Steven, Jamila and I and my husband. And Jamila was like, it looks like your skin. And Steven kept looking at me while he was visiting me and like, it looks like you just have a filter on your skin. Like, he was shocked and wants to buy it himself now, even though he does not need a foundation. I would say this is very dense, and if you go, but it works well for tapping in and for swiping. I might need a little bit more. I think I only did a pump. I've never had a shade match this good. It looks a little off on camera right now, but once it blends in the skin, it looks really nice. And this is what I've worn in my last 3 videos. And I think my skin looked amazing. I feel like the NARS foundation is a pretty good match for me. The Kosas one is a pretty good match. The Kosas is a little more like yellow olive, and the NARS is a little more golden. This is the first, like, I feel like I've had my skin in a bottle kind of color. So I'm gonna grab just a little bit more. I like barely press down. And then I'm gonna put right here on my jawline and cover up some of the redness I get from shaving. And it does look a little lighter than it's lighter than my forehead, so it's lighter than my tan that I have now because it is still you know, sunny and I still have my summer tan. So I think the shade will work even after my tan has faded, which I am very excited about. And I think it covers up my dark circles really well, even without concealer. And it just looks like my skin. And I've tried this with multiple primers, they've all worked. You can definitely make it look more glowy or more matte depending on the primer you use, so I appreciate that. So that's my face right now, with just like a pump and a half. I think it looks really nice, and as it settles in, it looks even better. I'm not gonna do a wear test today, but I have done a few others, and I will insert some videos at the end showing what it looked like after 8-10 hours. So I'm gonna go apply some concealer real quick, and then I will show you the powder. This is just my Kosas Revealer Concealer. I'm using the shade 5.5 right now. I also have shade 6. 6 is a little bit, 6 is like my skin tone in the winter. Right now it's a little brightening, and then this is even more brightening, but still not like super bold and bright. I don't like an overly bright concealer. It just looks fake to me. And then I generally put a little bit down here just to make sure all of that redness is covered. And it helps me get a seamless blend on my throat. Especially because this is, you know, the one pale part of me is like here. This little triangle is always a different color than every other part of my body. Okay, so I will show you my face at the end with bronzer and everything else. I'll use Haus Labs for everything, but this is the skin right now with just the foundation and a little bit of concealer. There's a, you know, a nice healthy glow to the skin, but not oily. And then the powder definitely helps mattify and help it be transfer resistant and like last all day. And I've worn this multiple days for 10-12 hours now. This is my go-to powder brush. It's just a Sigma big fluffy brush. And then this is the powder container. So it's got like, it reminds me of a bigger version of the Wowder from Glossier, like the same kind of component. And you can see, it's definitely a little bit of a bright gold, which I appreciate. And then I'm just gonna dust this all over my face. So this is my face powdered now, and you can see there's still a nice healthy glow. I mean, I also did my skincare on a primer, but it mattified without making it overly matte. Kind of like, it feels like a loose setting powder version of the Kosas Cloud Set. Like it sets and reduces shine and an oily look, especially if you use it later in the day. You can like use it again, but it doesn't take away like the luminous effect of your skin. So I really appreciate that. So I'm gonna go off camera and do the rest of my face, and I will be right back to give you the rest of my thoughts. So I'm back. I just added a little bit of bronzer, and then I remembered I did want to film another video. I want to film with the new Natasha Denona palette, so I'm gonna be filming that. And then I will, at the end of this, I will have eye makeup on and blush and stuff because I'm gonna try this out. So, but before I do that, I did want to show some swatch comparisons. So I swatched on my arm my foundations and skin tints. So you can see they all look very different. Somehow they all still kind of work for me. This is the Haus Labs in 260, and it is by far my favorite shade. This is the Pat McGrath Light Medium 14, which is her neutral olive shade, and you can see it doesn't look very olive next to this. I can't wear this. I like it best in the summer because I have a little bit of a tan, and that makes me look a little less yellowy olive and a little more golden olive. And it's also a soft matte. So this is my go-to summer foundation, although Haus Labs is now my go-to foundation for everything. Here is the Kosas Revealer Concealer. I think I also have like shade 260. Yeah, it's like 260 in this. This is their medium olive. This works really well in the winter for me because you can see it's a little more yellow olive, but I think this will still work. This is the NARS Light Reflecting Foundation in Stromboli, which used to be their olive shade, and now they call it golden. and you can definitely see it looks much more golden. And these are the Fenty skin tints I have in shades 10 and 11. This is described as their golden shade, and you can see it looks very warm, but because it's so sheer, this even works and just looks like my skin in the middle of winter. So as you can see from the back of my hand to here, it's sheer enough that it works all the time. So if you're in my shade range in that medium olive tone and you've used any of these foundations or skin tints, I wanted to give that as a comparison. But this is by far the first time I've had one that's like a perfect match. The rest of these are like pretty good enough that it works and people don't say like that looks like the wrong shade in person. But this is literally my skin in a bottle, and I am so happy about that. So I'm gonna go watch this off, film my other video, and I will be back later to finish this one and also include the wear time tests that I have filmed. For you, it'll just be a second, so be right back. Okay, so I'm back. I finished filming with the Natasha Denona palette, so that video should also be going live in the next few days. I'm not sure which one I'll put up first, the foundation or that, but they'll be going up this week. I think the foundation is now set for an hour and a half because I also had a snack between filming that, so I think it looks really nice. Also, I used the Natasha Denona cheek palette over the set foundation, like I had already powdered, as you saw, and it worked really beautifully. I think my skin looks really nice. I don't have any issues, like there's no, obviously it's only been a couple hours, but there's no breaking up. I don't look too shiny or anything like that. And like I said, I've been wearing this foundation for pretty much every day for the last week and a half, and I love it. I mean, if you couldn't already tell from other videos where I mentioned it or the start of this video, I love this foundation. This is my first true real skin tone match that I've ever found, and I have swatched so many foundations from different brands at Ulta and Sephora. I've bought things, I've returned things, I've thrown away things. I showed you the comparisons to other things that I can use and I do like, but I've never had one that I love as much as this. This just looks like my skin. It looks great. It wears really well. I don't have dry skin or oily skin. I have pretty normal skin. I can get a little dry where I shave, but that's like a byproduct of shaving, not my skin. That's just like, you know, irritation from the razor, and my nose can get a little oily. My forehead, not really, just my nose. And I haven't had any issues with it wearing away or any problems. I've worn a mask with it, and it did wear off a little bit on the mask, but not that bad, and it looked okay. Like you could tell there was a little less coverage there, but it didn't look like it just took it off. So I appreciate that. I will insert a clip here that I have at least 1 or 2 clips that I'll insert. One of these is like, this is after like 8-9 hours, and the most I've worn this for is 12 hours, and it still looked good. It still looked like my skin. I didn't want to wash it off, like I just had perfected skin. So I think this, if you want a skin-like finish, this is a great foundation. If you want a super matte finish, this is not it. You can definitely mattify with powder, but it's not a matte foundation. It's also not a super glowy foundation. It's just luminous, good skin. And then as far as the skincare ingredients, they don't make any claims like use this for so long and this will happen. Like the Kosas and the NARS had like claims if you wear it all the time, it'll improve your skin. I don't think they've made any distinct claims other than it has stuff that's good for your skin in it. And I will say, even after 3 days of wearing it every day, I had less redness on my face. And I think it's actually working. I hadn't changed my skincare, I hadn't changed diet, nothing's changed, but I'm having less redness around here where I get it, a little less down here. Like I still get some razor burn, but like it's just not as bad. And the next day I wake up and my skin just looks good. So I think it is already having a good effect of adding this into my routine. So it's $45. It's not a cheap foundation, but if you're interested, I really recommend it. Worst case, I think you should go to Sephora, have them shade match you, and get a sample of it to try, because then you're not spending any money. But I think everybody who wears foundation should try this at some point, even if it's just a free sample. As far as the powder goes, I really love this. I might try the translucent one eventually. There's also a peachy shade for lighter skin tones that need that peach to help brighten and color correct. Then there's a tan shade and a dark shade. And I think this is a really great powder. I've tried a handful of loose setting powders. Some of them are really heavy and cakey. This is really finely milled, like the most finely milled one that I've tried. And it is like the loose version of the Kosas powder. It sets, it mattifies, it blurs very well. This definitely adds a blurring effect, like noticeably. That like mattifying, blurring thing really does work with this, but it doesn't take away all of the luminosity of your skin. And I've even a couple times like gone back in and powdered a little bit more because I went for a walk or something, but I think it's really great. Oh, I forgot to mention this with the foundation. I've even worn this, like there was a day Steven was in town. We went on like a 3-hour walk around Seattle. Like we went downtown, we went to the big Seattle library, we went all over, we went to breakfast, like brunch, we did all of these things, and it was pretty warm out. I was in, t-shirt and jeans or t-shirt and shorts, I don't remember. And it still looked just as good when I got home. I did have to like powder, blot a little bit of sweat up here, but like my skin looked great. It didn't look oily, it didn't look greasy. Like these hold up really well. So if you're in the market, I recommend trying them out. As far as the brush, I really like it. I think if I compare it to my Sigma brush, my Sigma Kabuki, I would say they're equally as dense, and they're both pretty on par softness wise. I don't remember how much this costs, but I think I like this more. But I would say this shape is a little better for like spinning and blending this way, but this works too. And I really like the shape and the fact that I can also use it to like buff out my concealer if I need. So don't think it's a need, but I think it's a good quality brush. So I don't think you'd regret getting it, but I don't think you need to rush out and get it if you already have a foundation brush you like. Okay, so that's everything. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts, what you think of the foundation, if you've tried it or want to. I'm hoping that Haus Labs does a good sale at some point. I'm really hoping they come out with a concealer now, because if they do, it's gonna be my next holy grail concealer, I can just tell. So let me know in the comments below what you think of the foundation and everything. And thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.